Again, I'll call a meeting to order.
All roll. Bobby Colson.
Here.
Ronnie Collier.
Here.
Adam Lewis is absent. Jeff Morris.
Here.
Howard Phillips.
Here.
You have a quorum, sir. And I'll read the notice of meeting. This meeting's date, time, and location have been noticed on the Tennessee Auctioneer Commission's website, included as part of this year's meeting calendar since August 4th, 2014. Additionally, the agenda for this month's meeting has been posted on the Tennessee Auctioneer Commission's website since April 28th, 2015. This meeting has also been noticed on tn.gov's website.
Hey, agenda review.
I move we adopt the agenda as written.
Yeah, I do have one minor correction. We will not have a tab 8. The CE provider did not get their information to me in time.
Tab 6 and 7 only, right?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll
Motion-
second.
Motion been made and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Did you say the educator is stuck in traffic?
So I haven't heard from Ms. Hanson this morning, but Assistant Commissioner Brian McCormack and our accounting manager Bill Huddleston are here for your budget presentation. But before we get to them, if we could go ahead and approve the minutes.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Budget presentation.
Chairman, members of the board, and I apologize. I know we're getting here somewhat late in the cycle here, as we're pretty close to the end of this next year's fiscal close. But as you know, we like to present the numbers for the previous year. We try to do that around January. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to coordinate a little sooner with you all, but wanted to talk about kind of where you were last year, and if do you all have the financials in front of you? Okay. Kind of go over this fairly high level, and if you have any,
That just says auctioneer's budget closing fiscal year 14. Okay.
I'm gonna just go over real high level, and if you have any questions, you can stop me. As you can see here, payroll expenditures 14 were a little down, and that's related to how the executive director's salary has been split out in relation to you all, and then your grand total expenditures were 126,501, so they were basically consistent with the exception of that one I've already discussed. For your cost backs from last year, they were at 69,097, taking your total expenditures to 195,598. So like I said, a little low, but that's mostly related to salary from the previous year. We'll also have, so your total net revenue came to 243,120, which would leave you with a positive fiscal year balance of 47,522, and adding that to your prior fiscal year reserve, that takes you to 211,570. Your total reserve balance. And just one other expense I wanted to draw your attention to, which was CORE, which I think you all have heard about as the new licensing system we're implementing department-wide, and that's your percentage of what's being paid. It's being paid in 3 installments, and this is about 75% of this 16,000 is about 75% of your portion of that installment. And just so you know, this is a pretty costly overall change. We moved from our current system was implemented in the early 90s, cost-based, and so now we're moving to a more web-based format. This is a significant upgrade. You all to pay this small amounts of really, really good value, considering we're fortunately able to spread it across all of the different boards and commissions.
What does it do?
It's how we track licensure complaints. It's how we handle
Okay.
all license. It's the license. It manages all of licensing for your board and
So
others.
on our website to file a complaint, that's part of it?
It will be, yes.
Okay. And when will that be implemented?
All around September
Okay.
is the anticipated.
We'll have this same amount of expense for the next 2 years, or as you say, this is the bulk of it?
This is 75%, so it's going to be much smaller over the
Okay.
next 2 years.
All right. I just want to make sure I heard that right. I think that.
Also, we've got 2 more payments, but this is probably 75% of what we'll pay total.
Correct.
Okay.
So our reserve has moved up every year. We're up to $194,910, and that's pretty good, I think.
Correct. You all are definitely going in a good direction in terms
Right.
of how you're.
We're still paying our own way. That's the main thing.
We're just talking as we're getting close. I was just so Bill Huddleston, who's here with me, he's the accounting manager for the division, and Bill and I were just discussing. I think you all are tracking in this fiscal year toward a good place too. So as we're getting closer, I thought I'd want to make sure we had looked into that. Do you have any questions?
We don't have a lot of input as to the expenses involved. It's just good to know kind of where we are. And of course, the main thing is getting the licensees to renew every year and make sure that they stay up to speed. And I think that's steady right now. I think we'd saw some fall off in the numbers, and as some of our guys start dying off, because there's a lot of old auctioneers out there right now, that hopefully there'll be some new young.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
Hey, I put myself in that category. I'm 61, so I think that's a good thing.
And I'll just take a moment to if y'all have the education and recovery, is that included in their packet as well? If you just want to look, there's.
No, I don't actually
Okay.
think that the close is not included,
Okay.
just there.
Well, I'll just update you on the education recovery account, where you all are in that, and this is $50 per each licensing fee is put in this fund, and this is used for the schooling program you all have, and I'll actually let Kimberly say. I mean, you know more about it than I do.
This is for the seminar and the newsletter.
Gotcha.
That's the bulk of the expenses. Pretty much all of the expenses are related to the seminar
Right.
and the newsletter we publish.
And so where we are this year.
Could I ask a question? How much does
Sure.
it cost to publish the newsletter? If it's a lot of trouble, it don't.
Oh, I believe it's right around $4,000.
Per issue.
That's including the postage, you're getting it out.
Yes, it's roughly $4,000. I was looking at this year's current, what we've spent this year so far.
Year 14, you all spent out of that fund. You spent $54,521, and you took in $69,000. So you've added another $14,000 to the fiscal year. Yeah, and that puts you at 223,283, which puts you above the $145,000 minimum that you're required to keep in that fund.
But what is the balance now?
It's 223, 283.
223. So we're 55. It's about $70,000 up.
And actually, as of March 31st, you were at 228, 386.
So 230. Okay. $84,000.
And I will just remind the commission, this is also the fund that would be used should someone file a claim.
Right.
It's the education and recovery account. It's been a number of years since we've actually had a claim.
I don't think people know they can.
We actually have instructions and information about it published on the website.
I know.
But yes, I'm not sure how many of the public understand. But we do.
They'd rather file a lawsuit, which is fine. But
Well, and they actually have to go through those pieces
Yeah.
in order to claim. We are the.
Kimberly's doing a good job. She's a little bit stingy with our money, which is great.
I'm an accountant.
oh,
That's
really?
where I started out. My degree
Okay.
is actually in accounting, so yes, I'll take
Keep
that
it
as a
up.
compliment.
Keep it up.
Well, I think we are in good shape, and I appreciate the update and kind of know where we are. We kind of operate in the blind most of the time about where things are, but I don't know what else we can do other than what we're doing to help make it better.
We're all in a good position at this point. So.
All right, good deal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else while I'm here? All right. Thank y'all. No, not at this time. So,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate your time and the report.
Kimberly. This would be good stuff along with the recovery fund deal. If you could send that to me, this would be good for me to report on at the,
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you'll let me know what day you're leaving, I'll make sure you have
no,
the
I'm talking
most-
about the state convention. It's the first, it's like the 6th and 7th.
June
or something.
6th, June 4th, 5th, 6th, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
Okay.
whatever the first Sunday and Monday in June is.
Does this ever get published in a newsletter so the other auctioneers around the country know what's going on?
the balances, and I don't know that it ever has. Ms. Hanson is here, so I would let her, she has the historical knowledge related to the newsletter, but no, regularly publish your fund balances or anything.
Well, every auctioneer in the state is contributing
That's true.
to the money to it, and I feel like that every once in a while, they should know where their money's going and how much of it is left in the pot, thanks to you. There was a time when there was zero. When Bredesen was governor, it got all
I
taken
don't think you
away.
ever got down to zero.
Whoa.
We got rated pretty good there
They
one
did
time.
take some significant money from the reserve. I don't believe they left you penniless, but
Poor.
I understand.
State took it.
Took 500,000.
Yeah, they just came in just right.
That sounds like California.
It was-
California wiped
it
out
was
the
not.
auction
It was not
commission.
limited to the auctioneer commission.
No, they
it
got
was,
everybody.
It was the division. It was the
were-
division in total.
They were equal opportunity. It was equal opportunity. They snatched money
Yes.
from everybody.
It's
All
actually-
what we were concerned about was the auctioneer commission.
I understand
Right.
that, but you're also real estate. Many of
I
you
think
so-
it'd be good to
so-
have some update about the recovery fund in there.
At the convention, yeah, I think it'd be good.
Well,
Be good
even
to have
in
it in
the
the
even in
newsletter
the
too.
newsletter.
You need to let,
Be good to have in the newsletter too.
yeah, because how many people?
It is public
don't-
information.
How many people don't come to the convention?
That's why they should
Give a
come.
Great speech.
That's an incentive to come.
I would like to get it published in the newsletter if it's okay and you can,
the balances and
yeah.
such. I don't think this would be the best thing to
No,
publish.
no,
This would take up a lot of page, but we could publish some of the highlights, the reserve balance.
Trying to explain that would give you a headache. I mean, we one time, a long time ago, they came in and explained how they came down to figuring how much for the rent and all that kind of stuff. And
No, I'm not talking
Yeah.
about how much your salary is and her salary, because they would explode if they knew that.
just the bottom line.
Just how much is, just how much is in the account, you know, the bottom line.
Okay,
I think it'd be good.
I can work with.
We could have a
Russell.
ride on our hands.
Mr. Phillips, would you like to do a chairman's corner on that?
That'll work.
Okay.
That'd be fine. I'll make that motion.
There you go, Russ. That gives you some content for the newsletter. That's
go.
what you're always looking for.
And we're actually, just speaking on the newsletter, with our new licensing system, we'll be publishing some information about that in the coming newsletter, so we can throw this in. And Jess and I've already had a conversation about like the next 3 newsletters, so we've got some good content coming up.
Before we go any further, I'd like to interrupt for 1 second and welcome Ronnie back. He had his surgery, which was very serious, and he's out doing good. Looks like he had a child while he was gone, lost his belly, but
C-section and a tummy tuck.
we're glad to have him back and healthy.
We are glad to have him back. Absolutely.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is the education provider report.
Morning, I'm Ressa Hansen with Nashville Auction School, and as a very brief report, first of all, let me thank y'all for providing me additional content for the newsletters, and we will be doing our Middle Tennessee CE seminar tomorrow at 9 o'clock, at the Nelson Andrews Leadership Lodge at Smith Springs Road.
I'm gonna try to come out there.
Yeah, it's just to come out and see the
Yeah.
facility is absolutely fantastic.
Brochure looked like it was gonna be nice. The brochure looked nice.
Yeah, it's a really nice place and very relaxing place to be and learn. So we are excited about that. We will have Mike Branley from the Ohio School on Ethics and T. Kyle Swicegood out of North Carolina on salesmanship. So I hope all of y'all can come. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ressa. Legal report, I believe we're up.
Good morning.
Most fun part.
Tab 2.
Let me know when you're ready. Okay.
I'm ready.
That was fast. Okay, so first of all, any consent order authorized by the commission should be signed by respondent and returned within 30 days. If said consent order is not signed and returned within the allotted time, the matter may proceed to a formal hearing. Item number 1, 2015-002811. A complaint was filed stating that respondent has failed to pay complainant the full amount owed for items consigned with respondent for auction. Complainant alleges that respondent was threatening when complainant requested the difference. Respondent denies the allegations, stating that complainant approached respondent, stating complainant is owed $599 after the 20% commission is retained. Respondent states that respondent's bookkeeper and partner reviewed each item sold and discovered a $22 mistake, and complainant had sold just over $570 total. Respondent states complainant was paid that day for the $570 in sales, less the 20% commission. Respondent then states that complainant began to argue that respondent made mistakes on the sales from the last 3 auctions totaling about $160. Respondent states that complainant did not provide any proof regarding the previous sales when requested. Respondent states that complainant was threatening and was asked to leave by the building owner. Respondent believes that respondent did what is right and did not cheat complainant out of anything. Respondent further states that complainant has previously sold merchandise outside of the auction, but respondent did not receive commission. Office of Legal Counsel followed up and requested documentation from complainant and respondent. Complainant did not provide copies of the tickets or contracts pertaining to the auction. Respondent stated that there is no vendor, consignor contract, but only a verbal agreement that respondent will retain a 20% commission on items sold. Respondent further stated that upon inquiry, it was determined that respondent's bookkeeper inadvertently gave both white and yellow copies of the tickets to complainant. Respondent states that respondent immediately began to settle out tickets and keep copies of the tickets. Respondent apologizes for the miscommunication, states that complainant is welcome to contact respondent to work something out. Counsel recommends the authorization of a civil penalty in the amount of $250 for violation of TCA 6219-112B9, failing prior to the sale at public auction to enter into a written contract with the owner or consignee of any property to be sold, containing the terms and conditions upon which the licensee receives the property for sale.
There are some discussion. In my opinion, any auctioneer that does not have a contract signed by the auctioneer and the seller is asking for trouble, and it is against the law.
Yeah, I mean, that's black and white.
Is $250 enough penalty?
Well, based on the fact that it was only a $500 transaction, he's given up all he made plus some, so I think it's enough to draw his attention to it. I don't think you'll have to monitor this guy and see if he keeps trying to do that same practice.
And he did state when Jenica contacted him, I believe, that he was from this point on. I think it was just something the bookkeeper had not been doing correctly, and I think that he probably is taking care of that.
Could you ask him to send you a copy of his contracts that he's now going to have people sign?
I think That's fair enough.
Because that don't have anything to do with the bookkeeper.
We can put that
part of it
language
don't.
in the consent order, along with the civil penalty. We'll just put a requirement in there that he send us copies of.
Contract that he's going to have the consigner use.
Right.
Right.
His new contract.
Old contract, they
He
didn't.
didn't have one.
It sounded like a Friday night auction.
Take your tools
Well, I
out.
move that we accept legal's recommendation and fine the guy $250.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Been moved in second.
Who was the second?
Ronnie?
Ronnie?
Sorry. I was looking down trying to catch voices.
Item 2, 2015-005881. A complaint was filed alleging that respondent was going to open an auction without proper licensure to do so. The complaint stated that respondent has no licensed auctioneer and no firm or gallery license. As a result of the complaint, legal counsel requested that an investigator travel to the location of the alleged auction on the date and time provided by the complainant. Such investigator, upon arriving at the location of the auction, found a business with a sign painted in the window showing the auction name. At approximately 7 o'clock, several people had gathered inside the business and some had carried boxes of merchandise inside the building. An individual named Johnny welcomed everyone out to his new location and began around 7:15 p.m. to conduct an auction of several items from boxes that were previously carried into the building. The investigator observed the sale of several $1 and $2 items, mostly snack foods and household cleaning products. The investigator approached a lady at a desk who seemed to be keeping notes for the sale and asked who owned the business. She told the investigator who owned the business and that the lady selling drinks and snacks was the owner's girlfriend. When the investigator approached the lady identified as the girlfriend and gave her a business card, she then handed it to the owner and the auction ended at that point and several people left. During the investigator's interview, he learned that the owner was the respondent in this matter. He had been licensed at one time as an apprentice auctioneer, but had not been able to complete the test process to become an auctioneer. Respondent's apprentice auctioneer license expired on February 6, 2008, and according to Respondent, he had no license of any type to conduct the current auction business. Respondent stated he had been doing these auctions for years, selling his own merchandise, and he felt he could legally do that. Respondent also stated he would continue to conduct the business because he had a right to. He stated he had appeared before the Auctioneer Commission before and had been assessed a penalty that he did not pay. Respondent stated he would be at that location again on Saturday, March 7, 2015. Respondent advertises the above-mentioned auction on a website, showing the auctions are held every Saturday. As such, counsel recommends the authorization of a civil penalty in the amount of $9,000 for unlicensed activity, which is a violation of TCA 6219-102A1. The civil penalty amount would be $1,000 per Saturday auction date advertised on the website from the date of the investigation, which was March 6th, to the date of the commission meeting, which would be, well, today is May 4th, but the last one would have been held on May 2nd. This constitutes 9 Saturday auctions total.
He doesn't care about having a license at all.
It doesn't seem like he's overly concerned with what we're
Johnny,
trying to do.
And we don't have any jurisdiction over him, according to him.
Johnny don't care. But I'll tell you, the way I feel about that, Johnny's messing in my business and the rest of the auctioneers across the state. Johnny needs to be dealt with. And I'm not sure that $9,000, he's not going to pay it. And I'm not sure that that's enough penalty, but it's probably as much as you can get. Is there not a law that you can have the sheriff arrest somebody for illegal activity? There was.
We don't have any, we only have civil.
Not to pay after the civil penalty is issued. He'll appear before you.
Or
I'm
not.
sorry.
Right, he'll get the requisite 30 days to pay the whatever number you come up with, the $9,000 penalty, and then after that, if not, he'll have to come to a formal.
And he's not gonna come to that, so.
Well, let's just deal with it one step at a time. I think that, yeah, this $9,000 would get his attention if he's selling dollar items, and make him understand he does need to get an auction license, I move that we accept the legal recommendation and then see how far we can get with this guy as far as getting him licensed or shutting him down.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved in second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, item 3, 2015005951. This complaint represents the firm associated with the respondent from the previous matter, number 2015003031. The complaint alleges that respondent is not a licensed auction firm in Tennessee. The fact pattern is the same in this matter as the above-mentioned matter. The above-mentioned auction is advertised on a website showing they're held every Saturday. As such, council recommends the authorization of a civil penalty in the amount of $9,000 for unlicensed activity. So this is basically the firm associated with the previous one that we just did.
So there is a firm?
Well, it's being advertised.
As a firm, okay.
Right. So.
Like Johnny's
I'm-
Auction Company, Johnny Auctioneer,
Right.
okay.
So I'm just suggesting $9,000 there too.
But I don't think you'll get the first 9, much less the second 9.
Yeah, but I'm kinda like you, I think we just need to go through the steps and
Yep.
carry it far as we can. So I would move that we accept legal's recommendation.
Second that.
Been moved in second. All in favor say aye.
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 So he has to pay $18,000, right?
It's looking like that.
Okay, all right. Well, good luck with that. And
Yeah.
I do appreciate the recommendation, by the way. I think it's very well thought out.
Agree.
Do we need to put a cease and desist in there too?
Yeah, we'll put
Or is
cease-
that part of it, or,
Yeah.
I mean,
Right, well, it'll be in there because there's also future auctions listed on the website. So for us, by listing these 9 dates, that's what we're trying to cover now to just pinpoint. But we'll have cease and desist language in there, so maybe it'll help. I
Do
don't
you,
know.
do you know if
Probably
he owns
not,
the,
but-
do you know if he owns the building where he's operating?
I don't know that. I don't think I was ever given that information.
I don't believe we asked the investigator to.
Landlord
We'll
might
continue
be
to-
interested if he's not doing right.
Okay, item 4, 2015003031. The complaint was filed alleging that respondent is not licensed as an auction firm in Tennessee. As a result of the complaint, an investigation was requested at respondent location. When the investigator arrived at the location, he saw a sign outside that read thrift store. When investigator inquired as to an auction being held there, the lady working inside told him the auction was a mile down the highway. When investigator drove to the new location, he saw a sign propped up against a utility pole that read, I'm not exactly sure how to read that.
Thursday auction.
Okay. Investigator attended the auction on Saturday, February 7th, 2015 at 6:30 p.m. that was advertised on the sign. While the auction was being held, the investigator noted a sign posted inside the auction that reads, Any guarantees are between dealers and buyers. Please check your tickets before you leave. Thanks, management. And another sign that reads, All sellers are subject to 20% commission management. Investigator noted the auctioneer's name and the crowd of bidders. After the auction was over, investigator spoke with the auctioneer and the owner of the auction house. The owner agreed to give the investigator a sworn statement. In his statement, he states, I presently have an auction business with the name of the auction that has operated at subject location since January of 2014. Respondent admitted that the auctioneer at the auction on February 7th has never been licensed as an auctioneer. Investigator noted that he located a revoked license for the auctioneer that respondent was referring to. The investigator witnessed and took photos of the unlicensed auctioneer at the February 7th auction. Council recommends the authorization of a civil penalty in the amount of $1,000 for unlicensed activity, which is a violation of TCA 6219-102A1.
Can I ask you a question, please?
Sure.
You gave him a $1,000 penalty. The other one, you gave $1,000 for each auction. Is there a reason?
Yes, in this matter, we were only aware of the one instance of the auction. In the last matter,
I
There
thought
were
he said
several that were-
I thought he said he'd been doing auctions since January the 12th.
Right, I think that's separate from the auctioneer himself.
On that
Right.
other one, on that other one, you hit $1,000 for future auctions that were posted on the website,
It was
right?
$1,000 for each date that was posted on the
On-
website between the date of the investigation and the date of this meeting. In this particular one, I don't have specific dates, and this is the only one that the investigator was present for. So I didn't feel like I had enough evidence to pin multiple thousands because I don't have specific dates on that
Well, he
one.
said, I presently have an auction business called, name of that auction. That's a good name, too. That has operated at subject location since January the 24th.
No, extra January of 2014.
But we don't know specific
Well,
dates, and no one actually observed those auctions. I guess that's where I'm coming from.
I'm on your side. I was just wondering if there was a
Okay,
reason.
I'm glad.
I move that we go with legal's recommendation.
Moved in second, we take legal's recommendation. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Item 5, 2015-005891. A complaint was filed alleging unlicensed activity on the part of respondent. The complaint alleged that respondent is advertising pallet sales auctions on Craigslist and is not properly licensed in Tennessee. The advertisements state our auction will feature 20 to 25 pallets of new, return, and salvage inventory sold to the highest bidder. Pallets include furniture, seasonal, general merchandise, lighting, and more. In addition to pallets, we will have case lots as well. We have over 50 cases of new, ready-to-sell product. Each case has between 12 to 100 items. There appear to be numerous different advertisements on different websites. Respondent sent a response stating that it hired an outside auction company to perform the auction for a flat fee and that the auction was for their own property, not consigned. On March 31st, 2015, the complainant sent a letter to this office stating he would like to withdraw his complaint against respondent because he found out that a licensed auctioneer did perform their auction on the date stated in the ad they produced on Craigslist. Complainant stated that the auctioneer was a friend of his and he did not have this auction posted on his webpage. Complainant stated the confusion was the place of business decided to advertise their auction publicly without consulting the auctioneer about Tennessee auction law, to no faults of the auctioneer. Complainant stated he read their answer to the complaint, which stated the auction they had was for their own property and they had a right to sell it. Complainant agrees that they had a right to sell it with a licensed auctioneer, which they had. The recommendation is to dismiss. Five.
So they're saying that the seller ran an ad that the auctioneer didn't know about and didn't put the proper stuff in there.
Correct.
Actually,
Move we accept legal recommendation.
Well, the seller ran all the ads, every ad?
No, just an ad.
I think it's
I
just
thought we said it was several ads in several different places.
Craigslist ad that they were referring to here.
I can't argue with what you're saying.
Also
I
good.
just think every time I see those ads on Craigslist that somebody in the office types them in and sends them in, but is there a motion? We had a motion?
Yep. I made one.
Motion been
And
made
Ronnie's-
to accept legal's recommendation. Is there a second? Second. Moved in second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
you know, this is the second time on one of these that there's been the comment in there, and this might be subject for a newsletter article sometime too, about they're selling their own property. Well, yeah, you can sell your own property without a license, but you can't be in the business of selling your own property without a license. I mean, you know what I mean? If you keep on doing it over and over and over, you got to have a license or have a licensed auctioneer do it. See what I mean?
You can't buy it to resell.
Right,
More than once.
right.
Is that true?
That's true.
Yeah, you can't be in the business of doing it. It's just like real estate. You can.
I'd like to see the case of the law on that.
Well, Ronnie's wife, if she's not an auctioneer, or your wife or mine or who's ever, cannot go
Right, I think that, just for the record, I'm gonna read in 6219-103, which is, the provisions of this chapter do not apply to, in section 5, any person performing acts in the regular course of, or as an incident to the management of investment in property owned or leased by the person, if the property was not acquired for the purpose of resale.
That covers it right there.
Thank you. That clears that up. For those of you that are reviewing the video, that's for your information as well.
Are you ready for item 6?
Yep.
Item 6, 2015-008-661. This complaint was filed alleging that respondent is advertising vehicles and is not licensed as a public auto auction. Along with the anonymous complaint, the complainant sent a brochure showing that said auction would take place on April 4th, 2015 at 9 a.m. The advertisement included photos of the farm equipment vehicles that were to be sold. As a response to the complaint, respondent provided counsel with the details of the auction, including photos of the vehicles and farm equipment to be sold, sales statements, personal property, absolute auction agreement, etc. Respondent explained that it was under written contract to sell at absolute auction for multiple sellers, including the estate of a deceased individual, several contractors, and the county government. Respondent stated that according to TCA 5517-120 Part 2 and TCA 5517-120 Part B1, it is able to sell at auction without having a motor vehicle dealer license. Further, counsel contacted respondent via telephone a few days before the auction was set to take place to inquire further about the vehicles being sold, and it appeared to counsel through the phone conversation that respondent was following the laws and rules of the Tennessee Auctioneer Commission and not in violation of the public auto auction rules. Respondent was very informed of the laws and rules that apply to his business and was very cooperative in making sure that proper procedures were being followed. Recommendation is to dismiss.
What case, in what situation can an auctioneer sell automobiles without a public automobile auction license?
Well, it's an estate for one.
I can give you the answer.
Okay.
But I was just wanting, I think if it's done out of an estate and there's 5 cars or less that you can, if you're selling them for the county or the state or the federal government, you can, and under any other circumstances.
Bankruptcy court.
Bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Court order.
Now, I will tell you this, there's an auctioneer in this state that is doing online-only auctions, that's trying to hide behind that online-only portion and doing automobiles every day. And I'm telling you, I think that's a violation of the law, and nobody's filing a complaint against the guy, but I know he does it every week. And I don't know what we do about that.
Somebody with knowledge should file a complaint. Anonymous.
Everybody knows who I'm talking about.
Record, we discourage anonymous complaints because that typically leads to people who, after they file them, they're unhappy that they never know what happens.
Right.
And if we should need more details, that prevents us from being able to acquire those details from the complainant. So.
But you do follow through on anonymous.
We absolutely will accept them. We just want everyone to know if you do file anonymously, you will never be informed about what happens. And it puts us in a precarious place if we need additional details and are having trouble with getting a hold of the complainant. So we accept them, but we encourage.
When we get down to the last thing in our administrative report, Jeff, it might
Okay.
answer some of that.
All
Or
right.
it might not.
Anyway, based on the recommendation, I move that we accept the dismissal of this case, if you feel like that they have followed all the rules and procedures as written.
This person was extremely informed. I mean, he was taking precaution to make sure he was doing it properly. I felt extremely comfortable with what he was doing.
Okay.
Second.
Been moved in second. All in favor, aye? Aye.
Okay. Item 7, 2014-022-091. This complaint is a representation from the January 2015 meeting wherein the commission authorized a consent order in the amount of $6,000 for violation of TCA 6219-102. Civil penalty reflected $1,000 per date of auction with cease and desist language. The facts were presented at the January meeting as follows. Do you want me to reread those, or do you just want to take a minute to kind of?
Yeah, let us just read it for
Okay.
a second.
Okay, has everybody had time? Okay, so I've already told you what the previous decision was on that matter. So then what transpired after the fact was, after the consent order for the $6,000 was sent to respondent and not paid, the matter was turned over to litigation for a formal hearing. Subsequent to that, respondent contacted staff to inform them he's no longer doing business in the state of Tennessee and has no intention of doing business in the future. Respondent informed staff he would no longer be residing in Tennessee and indicated during the conversation that he would be willing to voluntarily surrender his auctioneer license effective immediately. So, to my knowledge, what happened was, after the fact, he did in fact get a license, correct? But now he's saying that he wants to voluntarily surrender his license because he's not doing business and he's also just not even going to live in the state of Tennessee anymore. So, per that phone conversation, I sent a letter to the respondent basically outlining the details of what we discussed on the phone and regarding his willingness to voluntarily surrender his license, and asked him to send me written correspondence confirming so. I have not received that back yet. So at this time, the recommendation would be the voluntary surrender of respondent's license effective immediately upon execution of a consent order requiring such in lieu of the previously authorized civil penalty of $6,000.
You're going to let him just leave the state and give up his license and be done with it?
That is up to you.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to speak to this at all.
As far as, going forward, respondent has clearly indicated that he is not going to be in the business. He does not wish to ever come to Tennessee again.
He just visited, or was he living here?
He was sort of a visitor of sorts. And my understanding is he has sold the property where he was going to where he had his business, and has sold it to someone else who is seeking licensure.
They don't have a license yet either.
They are not at this time
Okay.
licensed. I've had numerous conversations with the person who wants to purchase this business, and
All these cases are really from East Tennessee?
no,
That's where I'm from.
No, this is a southern thing. But yes, he basically has indicated he's going off the grid.
All right.
Maybe going to witness protection.
That his phone number and his mailing address, none of that would be something we would be able to reach him at.
Him from coming back, doing it again.
Did he surrender his license?
He'll be flagged. He has indicated he will surrender his license. We haven't received in the mail yet. There's not been enough time for the mail to
I think
go
that's
and
about
come.
all you can do. I don't know that there's anything else that we can do from our end in order to enforce something more monetarily stringent than what
Yes.
you have proposed.
Yes, if he should ever return, we do have, we would have the file flagged if he were trying to do business as the same person again.
Why would we?
Gallery.
Why would
owner,
we
not an auctioneer?
Why would we not hold the penalty until he surrenders his license?
Oh, you would.
I think
As part of the deal,
I think
you-
he understands the
consent or-
terms. He
the con-
understands the terms.
Yeah, in other words, you have to get one for the other. Until we get his license, he's not gonna get out from under the $6,000.
Ronnie thinks he might come back, and I do too. They always do. They always show back up.
I don't
And
think he'll
again,
ever quit.
he was a gallery owner. He wasn't a. You're certainly welcome. You could defer till next meeting until we have.
I mean, if
Mhm.
something, I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. If I did a consent order for a voluntary surrender, which he's already indicated he would agree to, and for some reason not to sign that, I don't foresee that happening, but if for some reason he got a wild hair and decided not to sign it, it would still go forward to a formal hearing, and at that point, you could seek whatever it is that we wanted to seek at that time. So it's not like if he just doesn't sign the voluntary surrender, he's going to get off scot-free. It's just a different avenue. It would be a different avenue toward a formal if he chose not to sign it. And we do have an address to get the to get the consent order. We have a plan in place.
Why don't we
to
just
get it
table
to
this
him.
until the next
Yeah, let's
meeting
just
and see
defer
if he
it
does
and-
sign. If he signs it,
see
it's
if
a moot
mail
point.
comes back.
It's a moot point, and then we can
So what are we tabling to wait on him to sign?
send an order
Send his license in.
and to submit his license back.
So I think what would have to do is just go ahead and vote on the recommendation for
Yeah,
voluntary
right.
surrender, and
Yeah.
then he would just be given the normal 30 days. It would just be like any other. There probably wouldn't.
But she's looking for approval to do that.
Right, there wouldn't probably be.
Right? Am I looking?
Yeah.
So you need the approval to do the swap.
Correct. I need the approval to do the voluntary
I
surrender.
move that we do that.
Okay.
Yeah, because if he doesn't, he'll automatically go forward.
Right, there
with
wouldn't-
formal.
Yeah.
Which he,
And you'll never get him to a formal hearing.
We're gonna do our best.
I know, but I'm just saying. Tried that
Hopefully, it
before.
won't get to that point.
Well, I know, but anyway, I move that we accept your recommendation and see if we can't get him to sign the consent order and do a quid pro quo on that.
Second.
Been moved and second that we take legal's recommendation. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now that that's over, explain to me what you're gonna do.
As far as the consent order? Okay, so here's what happened. We had the phone conversation with this individual. He agreed to do a voluntary surrender of his license in lieu of the $6,000 consent order that was previously recommended. So at that point, I sent a letter to him stating all the details of the conversation, because that's what attorneys like to do. We like to put stuff in writing and make sure you know what we said. And then asked him to also send written correspondence back to me saying, basically also regaling the details of the conversation, which I haven't gotten back yet because we did that pretty soon before this meeting. I don't think the mail's even had time to get back. So at this point, what would happen is, now that you've approved the recommendation, I'll go back to my office and draw up a consent order for voluntary surrender of this individual's license. I will send that to this person, and then hopefully he will sign within the 30 days, get that back to us, and that's that. His license is surrendered. If for some reason he did not,
If he don't,
he
then
would
it
still
goes to
come.
a formal.
Right. And then you're welcome to do whatever at that point. Yeah.
Okay.
We don't have canings in this country. Canings.
Okay. We are on to the last item, item number 8, which is 2013-011541. This complaint is a representation from the October 2013 meeting, wherein the commission authorized a consent order for litigation monitoring. The facts were presented at the meeting as follows. And again, you can just take a second to look over the italicized portion. Those were what was presented back in October, and I'm sure you guys have slept since then. So if you just want to familiarize yourself with that. Yeah. I wasn't even.
So the bottom line, they worked it out in court.
Yeah, the bottom line is they agreed to an agreed order of compromise and dismissal in October of 2014. I didn't find any information within the file and what transpired since then for enough probable cause to move anywhere on this, so I'm just recommending dismissal.
I would like to excuse myself from this.
Okay.
Ronnie. Mr. Collier.
Still in litigation, right?
Oh, it's
No,
over.
it's over. They have reached a
Previous recommendation was
Right.
Right,
litigation.
the new recommendations,
Okay.
In
yeah.
other words, when we got the case, I remember this, when we got the case, they had already filed a lawsuit. We said, well, if they work it out, and they'll have greater jurisdiction in that court than we would here. So the complainant and the owner, they entered into a settlement agreement among themselves. So they're both happy, and we're happy too. So move that we accept the legal's recommendation to dismiss this case and get it off of our docket.
Motion's been made here, second.
Bobby's unsure. Case to
They're through with their litigation and stuff. That's what's confusing me, I
Yeah,
guess. This was the old complaint here.
Right.
What we just read.
right.
Yeah, it was presented back in 2013.
Well, where does it say that they,
After where it says previous decision, there's a little blurb that said respondent's attorney provided additional information that an agreed order of compromise and dismissal was filed in Chancery Court on October 28th, 2014. That's the point where the suit was over. The settlement agreement between the parties is confidential and wasn't provided to legal counsel. However, we do know that it exists. We just can't read all the ins and outs. So in October of 2014, that's when everything was settled with the litigation.
What was so controversial that it had to have it sealed? That's interesting.
It happens sometimes.
Second, Mr. Colson?
I will say this, that auctioneer, we need to make sure we got eyes on him and watching everything he's doing because
did we ever forward this to the Real Estate Commission at the time?
Sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Did we ever forward this to the Real Estate
Yes.
Commission at the time?
Yes. I can tell what happened there. Yeah, the Real Estate Commission dismissed it at their meeting as well.
because of this lawsuit. Okay.
Yeah, this microphone and I are not getting along today. We can
Hold down the little speak button.
I'm like just flailing. We can also flag this file if we need to. Since you're saying you think we should watch out, we can flag this to be sure that nothing comes about in the future. I mean, better.
That would be my
Okay.
recommendation.
So, close and flag would be the recommendation, and Mr. Phillips is recused.
Motion's been made. Are there a second?
It's up to Mr. Bobby. Second.
All been second. All in favor say aye.
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 How are we going to be watching you?
Okay, that concludes the legal report. Thanks.
Oh, okay, I didn't ever flip over to the last page.
I wasn't sure if maybe that was where we were. I didn't know how it
didn't
looks on
ever-
your copy.
I didn't ever flip over to page 9.
That's okay though. We got it figured out.
Not that it makes me feel any better, I still just didn't flip over.
All right. You still have an item 2 there, Mr. Chairman.
Item 2?
Storage unit auction question, tab 3.
Oh, I didn't know she was through. She's through?
No, that's her.
I'm all finished. Yeah, I did.
This is the information that you tabled at the last meeting. I sent it out to you via email. Person is asking about having to have a license related to selling storage units.
I have a pulse, Bobby.
We're on. We're ready. Are we discussing storage locker auctions? Is that what we're doing?
Well,
The person here has provided some information, just really looking for some guidance. This is actually becoming a prevalent question. about licensing, the advertising, and law doesn't specifically mention storage units, so we get several phone calls. So,
Well, let me tell you what I know about storage locker auctions. These movie stars in California and storage wars have stirred up a stink on storage auctions. Everybody thinks that that's the true deal with it. Our company does some storage unit auctions, and we handle them exactly the way we handle any other auction. We advertise them with our name and the name of the company and the storage units that are being sold. However, there's several storage companies that sell them themselves. They advertise to be sold next Thursday, 8, 9, and 10, 12, and 16 at 10 a.m. And they sell them themselves. There is also some guys in East Tennessee, or two guys that I know of, that's basically what they do is storage locker auctions. And they advertise them as with their number and that they're selling them, legitimately. So I don't know. Yeah, they're
be sure to.
the guys that I know that are selling them are just like us. They have a license and they're going to sell these storage units and advertise them with their name. And that's the way it should be done, I think. But the people who own the storage lockers have the right to sell those unpaid lockers. Is that not correct? And they don't pay their rent. You send them a notice and then you sell their wares. Is that right?
I don't know.
Do it.
Well, I know they do it.
Well, my personal opinion is I don't see anything wrong if Kimberly owned a storage company and us four had lockers and we didn't pay her for them. She has the right to get her debt paid by selling those, whatever we left.
Herself.
Herself. Her only. Just the owner. Not the manager.
That's where some of the question comes into play, is because you're talking about a company. You're not talking owning, and that's the question we get frequently. Yeah, it's ABC company selling the storage units that the company owns. So the person, it's not a sole proprietor. One person doesn't own. And the other question comes into the advertising of how you advertise it. Who's actually selling, as well as handling the money. It becomes a very complicated question.
I'll bet you it gets to a point too, like let's say you had a locker that brought more than what rent was owed on it. I'd be willing to bet that money needs to be returned to the people that rent. I mean, you get into a lot of things with that, as far as proper notice to the tenant and all that kind of stuff. And if I owned a storage facility, I would want to hire a licensed individual to do it just to make sure my tail was covered. But
Right. I think the question here is, this gentleman is not licensed in the state of Tennessee, and he wants to come to Tennessee and do these sales. He's apparently an expert, or has, expert might be the wrong, he has.
I understand.
I know. Yes, I'm trying to use the proper terminology. I'm sorry.
Storage units are owned by the company, correct? Yeah. Not an individual.
Yeah, he wants to come and do them, and he's saying that the auctioneer should be responsible for the advertising. That he won't be advertising the sale. The storage facility will be advertising and collecting. He's basically
Just gonna call me.
I think he's just gonna call.
Right.
is what he's saying. And
Well,
to
the
call that-
customer in this case is the storage unit company. It's not the tenant. So basically, the storage unit, in their agreements with the tenant, says if you don't pay, we're going to take your stuff and sell it and collect our rent. And I don't know that just because it's the company selling stuff that they've seized through a lien makes them exempt from having an
Have somebody
auctioneer
licensed
or
doing it.
a licensed auctioneer from doing it. I think they're trying to say because they are acting under a lien provision that they are exempt under the law from having a licensed auctioneer. Unless it specifically says that in the code, I don't think they can hide behind that.
I think you'd have to have a Tennessee auctioneer license to be able to sell storage lockers in the state of Tennessee.
also require a Tennessee firm license.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the firm would have to do the advertising.
And you could be from South Bend, Indiana, and do that as so long as you had a Tennessee auctioneer license
Firm license.
and a firm license. Well, you could do it for a firm in Tennessee, right?
If you associated with a firm.
Yeah.
An
But you
auctioneer needs
need
a
an
firm, and a firm needs an auctioneer.
Right.
You need a firm license and a licensed auctioneer.
Keeling, there's
Do
not
that.
any exemption under the law for storage units, is there?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Not under the auctioneer code.
Okay.
I believe the exemption is the fact that the person's saying they're selling their own stuff.
Well, they're not.
Right,
You're right, they're not.
They're not.
right.
They don't have title to that stuff. They only have access to it and the right to sell it based on a contract that gives them a lien.
Okay, what is the question that's before us here?
They're wanting to know that because they have that lien position, are they exempt under the law from having a license? And I'm saying no.
I say no.
I move that to sell storage lockers in the state of Tennessee, you need to have a Tennessee license.
Second.
And
I
firm
think
license.
I think.
And
I'm sorry, I just want to make it clear. I do know the person who asked this question. We will direct them to the video, so I want to make sure everything is on and
On
it's
record,
and
right.
it's clear
Right.
that you. In
Well-
Tennessee, you have to have both. Some states you don't have to have the firm to have the auctioneer. So I don't know which states those are, but I'm sure somebody allows it.
Unless
so I wanna
there
make sure.
is a specific exemption for storage facilities, according to Keeling, we don't have one, then a Tennessee auctioneer firm license and a Tennessee auctioneer license are required to hold storage sales.
Bobby made a
And Bobby made
motion.
and
Would you
he-
repeat it, please?
I'm trying to repeat it for him.
I can remember.
Well, this is really helpful too, because like she said, we're starting to get quite a few questions about this specific thing.
But it's TV and all that.
Yeah, it is our, Bobby's saying
Yes.
he's made the motion that we were taking the position, and we're, as the Tennessee Auctioneer Commission, that they must have a firm license and an auctioneer license from Tennessee in order to hold these sales.
What Jeff said.
And it has been seconded,
Okay. Are you
Yes.
second, Mr. Morris?
and so I call for the vote.
Second, Mr. Morris.
No, Ronnie was.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's been moved and second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Can we have let's have a roll call on that.
Okay, absolutely. Bobby Colson,
Aye.
Howard Phillips,
Aye.
Jeff Morris,
Aye.
Ronnie Collier.
Aye.
Mr. Lewis is absent. 4-1.
All right. So, on to tab 4.
There.
Yes.
Okay, this is just the complaint comparison report, just a little update. We have 45 open complaints, and the performance measure is 93.94, so we are well exceeding the divisional requirement. Just a small update.
That was the March budget report.
That is just the usual presentation of the revenues and expenses. Expenses are on page 1, revenue is on page 2.
Are there
and
any highlights you want to point out?
No, everything's pretty much right where it should be.
Out of the unusual.
No, sir. And then the final page is the recovery account information. And someone had asked earlier, you can see the recovery's
Last
on
page
page.
behind your budget.
Yeah. Anytime you have speaking engagements, or if you're appearing at seminars or the like, I am happy to pull together information. So. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, he said 145. I thought it was 150.
It's either 145 or 150. Yes, we do closely monitor that each month. Bill Huddleston is the accounting manager. He took a form of my job prior to me becoming the director of licensing. So he's the one who watches over us. We meet with him monthly and go over all of the budget and performance measures. So
Okay, we on 10?
from tab 6.
Tab 6.
And tab 6 is actually quite lengthy, and I have the hard copy of the documents that were provided to us. This is a CE course that has been presented for approval.
Basically a law course, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and it is. What I see in this course is it's an online course, and I have essentially what's the PowerPoint if you'd like to flip through it. It essentially is just a PowerPoint with the laws written on it, so it's a copy and paste from our code.
What does he bring to the table?
I feel as though this would be more of a pre-licensure course rather than a continuing education course. I did call the phone number to register. I was a bit unhappy that I received, "Congratulations, you've won a Walmart gift card. Press such number to claim your gift card." So, yes.
I would be unhappy also.
I believe this company, we need to vet them a little further. And again, I feel like copying and pasting our laws and rules, again, this feels more pre-licensure.
Right.
Your laws change very infrequently.
Right.
So
There's no update, really.
there'll be one update this session to define principal auctioneer.
These guys that just copy and paste our law and create a business based on the fact that, first of all, continuing education needs to be continuing education. It doesn't need to be a regurgitation of our law. Anybody can go online and read our law. I'm not inclined to approve it myself.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Motion's been made not to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved is second not to approve. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Did you say they were out of Texas?
Yes, I believe that. Yes, Abbott, Texas. They're approved in a couple of other
Well,
states.
and the reason I ask is I had heard some rumors here lately that Texas might be in the process of doing away with their license law altogether.
Oh, really?
If the person should ask, is there anything,
Yeah,
your expectation?
you can tell him that the copy and pasting our law to give to continuing education doesn't work as a continuation course.
What did you say? It needs to be vetted a little more?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
I think that's.
I
you tell 'em
I
that.
just vetted them.
Well, the vetting would be from our side, just to give them some idea
Right,
of what
no,
might be
no.
considered an acceptable
No,
course.
they got to bring something to the table. They've got to bring they've got to bring some experience. They've got to bring something unique. Can't be just regurgitating our law back to our own people to create a course so they can make money.
Those are
I
available
mean,
for free.
he can call me and I'll give him that exact explanation. It doesn't work that way.
I appreciate it, because I do think that they will ask, and I believe they may have applied for something prior to as well.
Well, and they're also doing HVAC and pipe fitting and everything else. I mean,
Okay, next item.
Okay, next is tab 7, and this is the continuing education for the TAA. It includes the agenda and the information about the presenters.
Want to explain it?
It's a 3-part course on the last page. Subdivision, Zoning Board, and Vested Rights Act of 2014. Definitely be something the real estate auctioneers would appreciate and probably gain a lot from.
Professor, do you know George? George Dean.
His resume is,
I'm looking at it.
okay.
Well, it looks like he can speak to the material with some authority.
Was he giving away anything when you answered the phone?
Your free Visa card.
No, sir, I work directly with the TAA on this. They submit this directly. He doesn't submit his
I
own.
move we approve the continuing education for this
I
year's
know
conference
that
and
law
show.
firm, they're good.
Been moved and second. All in favor, aye.
This is our second.
Bobby? Aye.
Aye.
Again, tab 8 was a 30-hour course. The school said that they would have the information next meeting. So we can move on to tab 9, which is the legislative update. And I have included the 2 pieces that I previously presented. The first being the bill that amends the Retailer Sales Tax Act. And the public chapter for that has been included. It is public chapter number 50. This was, as we previously discussed, and more to the sales tax, not really affecting the auctioneer commission directly.
So this is the work that we did before. Has this been approved now, the principal auctioneer portion?
Oh, yes, I was doing one, and then I was going to do principal auctioneer next. Did
Okay.
anyone have any questions about chapter 52?
That's just had to do with sales tax?
About having it allows the community foundation to have 2 auctions in a year, I believe.
2 auctions, what?
It allows the business does not include sales that a community foundation elects to make in lieu of 2 semiannual temporary sales periods, provided that an account sale shall take place during no more than 2 auctions, which last no more than 24 hours in each designated to receive charitable support from a fund or trust that comprises a component part of the community foundation.
They're going to charge them sales tax on the 2 auctions that they do, is what you're telling me, if a community foundation has an auction.
And that was assigned to us simply because auction was mentioned. The next one is that defines the term principal auctioneer. And this bill, it was signed by the governor on the 24th of April. So we should be receiving the public chapter any day for that.
That's the language that we put forth, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That was part of the administrative package, which defines principal auctioneer. Does anyone have any questions?
On legislation overall, I would like to go back to the thing we tried to reiterate a little earlier in the session and in the year. If there's anything that mentions the word auction or something like that, I think we need to know about it. I mean, there was some stuff this year that we had no idea about. I didn't until we found out through legislators or senators or representatives or something like that, and it kind of made us look stupid because we didn't know nothing about it and we're on a commission. So I would appreciate it in the future if y'all see anything comes across y'all's desk that mentions the word auction during the legislative session, would you please let us know?
This bill is coming back in January. It was postponed for a year. It's bill number 50, House Bill 54. I don't remember the number, but anyway, it is
48 maybe.
it's pertaining to, for a better word, the junkyard selling automobiles to the public without a public automobile auction license. There's nothing wrong, and we worked hard, and one of the reasons that it got postponed was that they don't want to go along with getting a public automobile auction license to sell automobiles. So that's coming in January, and I think that the commission should take a stand. And what is the legal way to do that? For the commission to be behind a bill.
Well, it's coming about in January, you said.
Coming back,
With you.
I think at this point, let us speak with chief counsel and see handle that process, because again, it will be January before it comes back up. But we can certainly provide that at the next meeting. I would hate to speak and misinform you.
Right.
That's something I've never done
well,
before. So
I don't want to be misinformed, but it would bother me less to be misinformed than it would for a bill pertaining to the auction business to come before the legislator and us know nothing about it. And then when we call down here, we get nothing done.
yes, sir. And again, the bill, when it was originally proposed, was a motor vehicle bill. So it was proposed to the Motor Vehicle Commission.
But they said they
Not to
were an
the-
auction company.
Right.
I believe that came on an amendment. This happened very late. So let us go back and see exactly how it is that if the commission wants to take a certain position, how that is handled. I just don't know how it's handled to give you an answer today.
Not familiar with that.
Yeah, we can check and report back at the next meeting because we'll still have plenty of time, and we'll just make sure we're using the avenue to do that in the most effective way. It's probably better.
I would appreciate that very much. And also, will you figure out a way that any bill that's coming before the House or Senate that has the word auction in it, that the commission will know about it?
And all of that, again, things change moment to moment. So I know Mr. Colson has brought this up. Following things on the legislative website is another way to gain that information. We can absolutely send it to you, but if you want to stay up to the moment,
And I've signed up for that.
Lexus,
Yeah, text thing. I've never received anything from it.
Notify.
Nothing.
We don't use Notify for that. Notify is at the end of session where we send out everything that affects and how the laws have changed, or when we finish rulemaking and how the rules have changed. That's how Notify.
It just every once in a while I'll just get on there and type in auction and look and see what pops up and it was one of the big insurance company auctions, and they were pretty much getting tried to get a bill passed where that was just specifically for them. If you sold so many cars, 10,000 cars that were less than $4,000, the public could come in and buy. It was kind of like what Ritchie Brothers did, except it was for them. It was, you know, it was just all for them and them only. And
Mr. Phillips, if you could use the microphone for me. Thank you.
My microphone's like yours. It's not working very well.
Well, you have to be a little closer.
Thank you. Are you going to start counting with number one, or are you going to sell 10,000 before it starts? How do you control that? Anyway, that was the basics for it. Next.
Okay, next we have the meeting, proposed meeting dates. I went through the calendar. A few of you had sent me information about dates or days that you preferred over other days, and it was a bit difficult to find clear days where I was trying to find days where we didn't really conflict with another board or commission meeting because of the parking. I do want to say the new parking facility is supposed to be finished in October.
ballpark.
Yes, sir, for the ballpark. So I feel like this will be a very temporary over the summer sort of issue. So if you wanted to wait, because again, today I got parking and it was very easy to get parking. If you wanted to wait until October to see if the problem continued as we got into the winter months, because I absolutely understand the winter, I just want to throw that out there to see.
Well, I would like to leave it on Monday and have it every 2 months like we did this time.
I think, well, the moving to,
Unless you have more than you can handle.
well, not more than I can handle. For instance, I do have a public auto auction that has applied. They did not have their everything together for this meeting. They feel that they may have it together for the next meeting. So that it would all be, again, every time it's always contingent on the things that I can't approve.
Right.
That's the way I
Well,
make
if we
that
have a
decision.
June meeting, we will not have a July meeting. We typically don't.
Correct, because it usually interferes with
The
4th of
4th,
July.
right.
Mhm.
So if we skip June, then we'd skip July, then it'd be another 90 days before we'd have a meeting, which would be August.
Why couldn't we have one in July?
Because typically it's on the 4th of July.
It usually is I believe we're having
July
our
the
holiday is
6th.
on the 3rd.
We'd have to come
It
up
would be
here
the
on the
Monday.
5th. And I would be absent.
We've actually planned to skip July already.
Yeah, typically we skip July.
We skip July and then we skip September. So
Right,
you
but-
really only have June and August between now and
In October. Right, only 2 more meetings. Right.
June would be the first
Yes, sir.
because Memorial Day is actually the weekend before this year.
Right.
Well, August would be the 3rd.
It is scheduled for the 3rd.
Ma'am,
It is scheduled.
It
for
is
the-
scheduled for the 3rd.
Right.
3rd of August, the next meeting.
No, June 1st will be your next meeting. I anticipate that Public Auto Auction having their information together. I also know there's a CE course that probably will have all of their information together. So meeting in,
Do we have any legal stuff for next month?
I mean, I can always put things on the legal report. If for some reason we skipped, I would still be okay because
Yeah.
I put enough on this one to get us through a 90-day period
Well,
if
you
needed.
already skipped July. You will not meet in July. It's already off the calendar. That's when we've set the calendar, we did not set it to meet in July. Again, it's all tentative. If the auto auction does not have their information together, and if the CE
We don't have to decide right now.
right, it'd be
I'm
best,
just listening.
It'd be best not to actually, just till we see where we stand.
Right. We were considering these alternative dates based on the parking problem, right?
Yes, that was the, I just went through the calendar. It looked, the fourth Monday or the first Tuesday were the better options.
Right.
Well, why don't we tentatively set the auction for June, and then we're gonna skip July, and then if there's nothing in August, that's a hot, dry month anyway, so we can see then. You wanna do that?
Absolutely.
June 3rd and
June 1st.
1st, okay.
June 1st. and
Unless you call.
Unless I call you and let you know. Call, email, text, whatever. I'll let you know if it will be canceled. And then your next meeting would be in August.
Not going to have a meeting in July, and we're not going to have a meeting in September already.
Once a quarter is all that is statutorily required. Okay, so we'll just table this, and if parking persists to be an issue after those meetings, then we can certainly, and we'll actually be setting the calendar for next year late, probably at that August or October meeting. So, other questions related to that? Okay. Moving on to tab 11, this is the NAA annual conference. It will be held
Addison, Texas.
Addison, Texas, which I believe is right outside of Dallas.
Yep, right
And
there. It's like Franklin is to Nashville.
so at this meeting, we need to decide who you would like to represent you at the meeting.
I move that Jeff Marsh represent us at the meeting.
Second.
All
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
I do appreciate it. It helps me out. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to attend? Oh, Mr. Phillips, Mr.
No.
Okay. I just wanted to check. We've historically been allowed to send 2 members of the board, so I wanted to.
That'll cut our costs in half then.
No, you just get more.
I'll get more, okay.
There we have it. Then that issue is settled, and I will work with Mr. Morris to get his travel arranged.
I will give y'all an OLUP report when I get back. Schools update.
As far as the rules go, I think that was something that working on before he moved on. I do know that the rules have been sent to the Attorney General for final review. The person who's working with us in the Attorney General's office had submitted a couple of comments to me based on the rules that Chris had filed, and Chief Counsel Tony Glandorf and I have been working with the AG to try to answer his questions so that we can get them through the final review and where they need to be. It's not anything out of the ordinary. It always happens with every final review. They are always comments and questions. So I expect those to get answered and move through pretty quickly. I don't think there's going to be any major holdups.
I'd like to ask a question about the complaints that people file.
Yes, sir.
If you get one filed again, do you have to reveal who filed the complaint or not?
To who filed the complaint? Yes, the respondent would receive a copy of the complaint as filed.
So if someone filed a complaint again,
If Keeling were to file a complaint against me as the respondent, I would receive a copy of that, and I would know that Ms. Baird filed a complaint against me. Yes, sir.
Well,
This is
And
filed anonymously.
Unless it is filed anonymously, and then it goes in, it's kind of a two-pronged thing. Anonymously, as I stated earlier, anonymous allows the person, basically the person who filed the complaint has to understand they will not receive any updates or any information related to the complaint. They have to trust the system as well as watch the videos and see when the facts are presented that their complaint has been resolved or.
Oh, if a member of the commission, one of the commissioners, somebody comes in without a license, 3 doors up the street, sells a person's estate, and the commissioner files a complaint, then, or tells the commission, then it's gonna be that Ronnie Collier filed that complaint. That's the way it works.
Collier files a complaint, yes. He would also.
Well, I know that from experience, and it's kind of an embarrassing situation. That's exactly what happened, and my company filed the complaint or sent the complaint in, and then it was Pal Auction was the villain for filing the complaint against the guy. But is there not a way that, other than anonymous complaint, that you can, that I can tell you that somebody's operating without a license and you could do something without it, without Howard Phillips said that?
Again, it's the anonymous piece that you're referring
It's-
to. That would
I
be
have had to do the
anonymous.
same thing in my area where I have had to file a complaint. Somebody brings it to my attention, I notice it, I file a complaint, I'm on the complaint, and they know that I filed the complaint, and it's just.
It's kind of embarrassing, isn't it?
It's not embarrassing, it's just, they shouldn't be acting outside the law, and I don't mind holding them accountable.
I mean, again, that's your choice. If you want to file it as yourself or as your company, you can do that. If you want to file it anonymously, again, when it's anonymous like that, the person will never receive any updates. They will not receive that we've opened it, what the response. When someone files and we send it out for response, the complainant also gets a copy of the respondent's response. You would never get a copy of that. And then at the end, when the matter has been closed, the complainant also gets a copy, and we let them know how the matter was resolved. And those are the pieces you would not get. So it's just knowing that you won't get those. And as a member of the commission, though, please remember you would need, even if you did file it anonymously, you need to recuse yourself.
Over adjourn.
Second.
Done.
Good job, guys.